never dreamed that I would have to face the prospect of not living in the United States of America, at least not the one I've known. I never dreamed that I would have to face the prospect of not living in the United States of America, at least not the one I've known all my life. I've never wished to live anywhere else. This is my home, and I was privileged to be born here. But today I woke up, and as I had my morning coffee, I realized that everything is about to change. No matter how I vote, no matter what, I say something evil has invaded our nation, and our lives are never going to be the same. I've been confused by the hostility of family and friends. I look at people I've known all my life, so hate-filled that they agree with opinions they would never express as their own. I think I may have, entered the twilight zone. We become a nation that has lost its collective mind. You can't justify this insanity. If a guy pretends to be a woman, you're required to pretend with him. Somehow, it's un-American for the census to count how many Americans are in America. Russians influencing our elections are bad, but illegals voting in our elections are good. It was cool for Joe Biden to blackmail the president of Ukraine, but it's an impeachable offense if Donald Trump inquires about it. 20 is too young to drink a beer, but 18 is old enough to vote. People who have never owned slaves should pay slavery reparations to people who have never been slaves. People who have never been to college should pay the debts of college students who took out huge loans for their degrees. Immigrants with tuberculosis and polio are welcome, but you'd better be able to prove your dog is vaccinated. Irish doctors and German engineers who want to immigrate to the U.S. must go through a rigorous vetting process, but any illiterate gangbangers who jump the southern fence are welcome. $5 billion for border security is too expensive, but $1.5 trillion for free healthcare is not. If you cheat to get into college, you go to prison, but if you cheat to get into the country, you go to college for free. People who say there is no such thing as gender are demanding a female president. We see other countries going socialist and collapsing, but it seems like a great plan to us. Some people are held responsible for things that happened before they were born, and other people are not held responsible for what they're doing right now. Criminals are caught and released to hurt more people, but stopping them is bad because it's a violation of their rights. And pointing out all this hypocrisy somehow makes us racist. Nothing makes sense anymore. No values, no morals, and no civility. People are dying of a Chinese virus, but it's racist to refer to it as Chinese even though it began in China. We're clearly living in an upside-down world where right is wrong and wrong is right, where moral is immoral and immoral is moral, where good is evil and evil is good, where killing murderers is wrong, but killing unborn babies is A-okay. Wake up, America. The great unsinkable ship, Titanic America, has hit an iceberg, is taking on water, and is sinking fast. Speak up.
Get your special sock out, nerds. Let's go.
Be the first to watch at home today.
Came home to my apartment completely wiped out. My husband left. He left me my jewelry here in this room here. And took everything else. I'm going next week. I want to travel. You knew that I like to go traveling.
Fine. Go traveling. Go find some guy who wants to travel there. I don't.
She planned a girls' trip without her man, and it backfired. Video from Modern Dating here. Like the video, subscribe.
Where he speaks about the conversions that were happening in the book. Yeah. So as this guy is kind of going through all of this and speaking about how, this book, A Record of the Jews in Jamaica, is the title of it. As he's speaking through all of this, he speaks about why it was that so many Hebrew residents in the St. Anne parish began converting or marrying. And what is of interest regarding Joseph Bravo Harris is the fact that, look at this, the Hebrews resident from the same book in St. Anne Parish assembled for divine worship on Yom Kippur at the home of Joseph Harris at Brownstown. I was credibly informed that the room Harris appropriated for the service, which was during his lifetime, was never used for any other purpose. Harris was an English Jew. He came here from New Orleans, Louisiana. Again, another coordinate that just keeps popping up. And then the author writes, I have not been able to ascertain the provision for worship that was made in any of the other parishes. St. Elizabeth must, however, have had organized worship during the 18th century. It is very pleasing to record that at no time since the Reform movement assumed practical form during the 19th century has religious persecution in the island reached so acute a stage as to at all render it possible for the setting up a Reformed congregation, as was the case in some of the neighboring islands, thus to save many on this account from leaving their ancestral religion. So he's just kind of going through all of this, speaking about how some people left the faith, and he says that he's inclined to believe that they did that because they just didn't like the rabbinical Judaism with its unyielding laws and just kind of wanted to marry into other families and become Christian. But that is of interest here. So again, if we can get up that family chart, we're speaking now about Joseph Bravo Harris, and he believes that this is the father of Joseph Alexander Harris. So right in the chart you're seeing, we don't have a picture for him, but we have a blank spot for him if this is correct. Then above that, we have someone that would be technically Kamala's third great-grandfather, Ralph Harris, who married Julia Bravo. That's where that middle name Bravo comes from. And what he's been able to discern is that they were also born in 1832 in England. He married Julia Bravo. They had 2 children together. He then married Sarah Ann Winchester, and they had 2 children together. He also had 1 son with Louisa Mary Evans, and that's where he says he's gotten as far back, but for whatever reason, he is saying that this would, of course, be known to the Harris family because Harris was a big name in St. Anne Parish. She would obviously know that her heritage dated back to this. She would obviously know that she had Jewish relatives, which, again, just keeps leading us to this question of why hide any of this? This is not something that the world would be upset about or angry about. So.
You run the Gristedes chain of grocery stores in New York. I know that's a small part of your business, but you run them.
Yes.
Are you expecting shortages, fruits and vegetables, for example, if we get a strike?
If there's a strike, prices in the supermarkets will go up higher than ever. And, we have everything closed down. You have the Suez Canal closed down. The Red Sea is closed down. If you have a strike on the East Coast, that's going to be closed down. Guess what? Prices are going to go to the moon. And the question is about President Biden is 35 days, 34 days to the election. This is not going to be very good for Vice President Harris because she's depending on lower prices. Well, guess what? There is no price gouging. Prices will go higher than ever. Right now, inflation is going to go up again. Produce prices, food prices, because of the strike, are going to go up again. And then Kamala Harris, the vice president, is going to accuse us of price gouging. But it was very simple for the current president of the United States, who is a Democrat, and theoretically wants Kamala Harris reelected, to extend it 60 days beyond Election Day. What do we have, 35 days to Election Day? Nobody understands why the president did not extend it 60 days, other than the fact that he is still very upset. President Biden and Jill Biden are very upset that they got stabbed in the back by, whether it was Nancy Pelosi, whether it was Kamala Harris, whether it was President Obama. Who knows who did the demand that they don't run again? But it was a coup at the White House. And President Biden is not like it. What happens is prices will go up again. Now you have the East Coast closed from products coming in. You got the Suez Canal, the Red Sea still closed on oil. So oil is $10 or $15 higher than it should be because the Suez Canal and the Red Sea are closed. Food prices are going to go up again. So you're going to have a vicious circle if we're not smart enough to sit down and negotiate and have a rational discussion.
So you think because Joe Biden was stabbed in the back by all those Democrats that maybe this is one of the ways that he'll be acting out, and he'll act out on policy. He's not going to get involved in the strike, just to say, stick it to you because you stuck it to me. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that's a great possibility. And the fact is, he could have extended it 60 days and have binding mediation or have some kind of mediation and do the right thing. But this is going to hit right between the eyes in the next 35 days on Election Day. Not only the food prices, we're building buildings and we need the windows. And guess what? The windows are on a ship someplace or whatever, and that's going to delay things.
That's a good point, because whatever you need to make progress, whether it's building homes or selling goods, you've got a wrench thrown into everything because you don't have the materials you need. They're on a ship somewhere.
Just a nice PSA to all the Gentiles in the world. I know that you don't like to see Negroes have anything, and I do mean anything. And I know that in the eyes of the Caucasian man, equality with a black person is oppression to you. But just a bit of wisdom. You've killed an innocent man. You've hung several men from trees. You refuse to pass a hate crime bill that would protect black people in this country. You continue to mock us and degrade us as a people. And for your prideful, arrogant, hateful ways of not allowing us to have anything, the Most High God is coming to take your everything. So much so that it says that he will leave you desolate in a wasteland for the dragons, and that you will be burned to stubble. So because you didn't want to share what already belonged to us with us, and you decided to keep the majority and the lot of it for yourselves. Because let's be truthful, white people, you could have campaigned to all of your politicians who only seem to listen to you when it comes down to your wants, needs, and any other things allocated in this country. You could have already said, yes, give the black people their reparations. You could have already said, yes, give them a hate crime bill so that nobody can come at them with that racist bullshit and not be held accountable for it. You could have said these things, but you go along with your politicians thinking that if you gave the Negroes anything, somehow, some kind of way, they would be equal to you, and you cannot have that because that is not how capitalism works. But because you did not want to share what already belonged to us with us, now all of your everything will be taken. Watch as this country collapses day by day, hour by hour. I mean, look at the upheaval. And it's only going to continue, little by little. A drip is just a drop until it creates the Grand Canyon. And the Most High God's wrath is upon every last one of you. And no matter how you want to stick your heads in your asses, you see it. You know it. But again, harden your heart, pharaohs. Be angry at the Israelites because they keep telling you we aren't going anywhere without all of our shit. And at the end of the day, the Most High is letting you know you won't have shit since mine can't have shit. Enjoy the rest of those hurricanes. As you will.
Life is going to go on as normal in week one. It started last night. Now, behind the scenes, things are starting to shake and crack a little bit. Retailers, manufacturers, and businesses that depend on regular shipments are beginning to feel the pinch in week one. The just-in-time supply system, that we all learned about in COVID, that's beginning to have a little bit of a strain, and it's starting to wobble a little bit. And while the shelves are still full for now, the stock rooms in the back are running thin. By week two, by the second week, you're going to start feeling things. So next week, maybe midweek, if it's still going on, maybe you head for the store and something as simple as bananas or a pair of new shoes, suddenly the shelves aren't as full. Some items just aren't there. Fresh avocados or berries that you've gotten used to, they're sitting on ships waiting to dock. And it's not just food, it's electronics, it's clothing, even toys for your kids. They start becoming harder to find. Prices, By week 2, they may start on some items to inch upward. Businesses are now scrambling to get their hands on what's left, and the competition drives up cost. That cheap TV that you were thinking of buying, you may have to add anywhere from 10 to 30% to the price tag by the end of week 2. If you were planning on doing some home repairs or upgrades, good luck. All of the tools and materials are sitting in crates, gathering dust at the ports. This is also a problem because of the hurricane. Anything that you get at Home Depot is going to be in short supply because of the hurricane, and by week 2, the dock workers strike. Now, by the 3rd week, if it goes on that long, now we're getting into some problems. It's no longer just a shortage of bananas or phone chargers. Entire industries begin to slow down. Factories that rely on parts from overseas just in time can't keep running. So the workers in those factories, people you might know, maybe it is you, are getting furloughed, sent home without pay because there's nothing for you to build. Grocery stores begin to ration some items and limiting on some items how much you can buy. Now, at this point, the strike is not a nuisance. This is week 3. This point in week 3, it becomes a crisis. The online orders you placed, delayed, weeks out. Businesses are pleading with the government for help by now, but even if the strike ended in week 3, it would take weeks to untangle the mess at the ports. By now, inflation is beginning to rear its ugly head. Everything from groceries to gas to clothes is more expensive than it was just 2 weeks ago. Week 4. This is when it becomes the full weight of the strike is unavoidable, and I believe it becomes a national security problem. And possibly by this time in week 4, it is just one part of what I am looking for, and we'll explain later on the show, a polycrisis. A polycrisis is what will take us out in a knockout blow. And you already have a little bit of a polycrisis with the dock workers and the hurricane. Small businesses are now closing their doors because they can't get their inventory. Grocery store shelves are sparse with some items missing altogether. Your favorite brands might be out of stock. Maybe you head to the hardware store only to find that the building materials you need are either unavailable or so expensive they're out of reach.